see him on the screen. Our prolific guest is the author, mentor, evangelist who has preached in over 50 states, 28 countries, a Bible college professor, a successful marketer, a #1 income earner, #1 recruiter in 3 different companies simultaneously. There you see him with his family and his lovely wife. Minister Harris utilizes his 10th degree black belt skills to motivate others in breaking the barriers to success. The doctor was inducted in both the Black Belt and Motivational Speakers Halls of Fame. And he's dedicated his life to educating, empowering, and elevating his fellow man. As the most entertaining, enlightening, and electrifying speaker, he formulated the 21-day Breakthrough Challenge and is the founder of the Great Discovery, which empowers people to live their lives without limits. And before we welcome him live on the show, Buddha, let's put on his video so the viewers can see a little bit more of Dr. Stan Harris, Dr. Breakthrough. Let's put on the video, please.
Evangelist, husband, father of 8 children. It's Dr. Stan Harris. 10th degree black belt in Ishinu Karate. Voted into the Black Belt Hall of Fame. Author, life strategist, entrepreneur, breakthrough speaker. I've spoken in all 50 states and 28 countries. You might be just one step from your breakthrough. Any barrier that God did not set was made to be broken. It's breakthrough time. As a matter of fact, check out www.breakthroughcard.com, breakthroughcard.com for more powerful videos. God bless you.
Let's welcome you on the screen. How are you, Dr. Harris?
Man, I'm too blessed to be depressed, too blessed to be stressed, too glad to be sad, too anointed to be disappointed. I'm too elated to be agitated, too legit to quit, too grounded to be confounded, too grateful to be hateful, too gifted to be restricted, too good to be withstood, and too saved not to be getting paid. Business is booming, checks are zooming. I'm happy on purpose, just like you, Dr. Ben, but I'm especially blessed to be on the show with you. Thank you for having me today.
Well, it's quite a pleasure to have you. And I got to tell you, as you were speaking, you brought me back to a time listening to Muhammad Ali. And the last person who was anywhere near you was Muhammad Ali. So I give you a great tribute that you are quite something. When you were a young guy, were you always the same? What were your dreams?
Well, actually, believe it or not, I didn't have any. I was sad to say I was just existing, right? My life was just a mess. And so Dad left when I was 3. He never called, never sent Mom a dime. You know, I 6 years of age, I was out in the middle of a field playing. A gang of teenagers came my way. I was so afraid because, you know how you can sense something is about to happen, something bad. Right. I was a 6-year-old boy. They were a gang of teenagers. One of them, bam, punched me in the stomach, knocked the air out of me. And trying to breathe, and, you had the air knocked out of you. And they picked me up and slammed me. And they started stomping on me like I'm an ant or a roach. And I'm calling out for help. And they start kicking all over me. And as a matter of fact, by the time I'm bleeding from everywhere you can bleed, you would think that's enough, and that wasn't enough. Here I'm a 6-year-old boy screaming, crying out for help. I'm bleeding from every orifice. And yet, these teenagers then flipped me over on my back where I'm faced up, took a great big old bucket of tar. They poured it on my face. They poured it on my body, took a bunch of feathers, literally threw them on me, and left me out in the middle of the field to die. I've been through verbal abuse, and one of my mom's boyfriends beat me with a steel choker chain for a dog. I've been through sexual abuse, and so my life was a mess. Matter of fact, I tried to commit suicide on 2 occasions before I was even 12 years of age. And I tell people, I'm so glad I failed. But again, I didn't have any dreams, any goals, any aspirations. My life was a mess. I never even thought I'd graduate from high school. And but God had other ideals, and thank God for good people like yourself. He put people in my life that saw something in me that I didn't see. And I wanted to give it a shot because they thought I could do things, although I knew I couldn't. I thought I'd give it a shot because I didn't want to let them down. And I was shocked when things came out right. I was like, wow. So, folks, you just never know the influence. And by the way, my early mentors, I jokingly tell people, was Bruce Lee, Muhammad Ali, and my mommy.
Well, I tell you what, your mom is most important thing in life. There's a study that they did, and you know that I'm a surgeon. When kids are born, if you take a healthy kid, but you remove them from the mother's love, even though you feed them, you let them sleep, you keep them safe, secure, the kid gets sick, he doesn't do well. And if you take the other baby and you give him to the mother, the love grows, he's healthy, you know, he expands. So what you said is so true. And I wanted to actually mention one other thing because of that incident that you went through, something that I live my life by. When something is very, very good, I used to think that meant people were going to help you and that it was going to be supported and you're going to get a lot of applause or support financially. And so what I was going to say to you, you as an individual, I can see with what you accomplished in your life, but at that early point in your life, you already were something that was going to change the world. And unfortunately, the way the world seems to acknowledge you is they try to kill you and stop you at the very beginning. So you're quite something. You know, there's the video about you. Amazing video. You've accomplished so much. Now, while we played that video, I want to ask you something because I think we've answered the question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Is this what inspired you into martial arts?
Yes. So again, I decided, you know, I used to get picked on all the time in school. I got chased home from school almost every day. And I had what I call a Popeye moment. Now, I don't know if you remember Popeye, but Popeye
Sure.
moment, here's what I've stands all I can stands and I can't stands no more. I got fed up and I made my mind. I was going to learn how to protect myself. I said, I'm tired of getting beat up all the time. I'm tired of getting pushed around. I'm going to learn how to protect myself. Well, my mom won a free month of karate lessons. And I went with her, and they were kicking and screaming and hollering. I thought, man, this is fascinating. Her free month ran out, Doc, and she started paying. In other words, free is good. She had a free month, but she was serious. She started investing in herself. And every month she paid, and she got better and better until one month she got too good. Now, you got to ask me, say, what's too good?
Tell me. What's
Her
too
and her
good?
boyfriend got in a fight, and she knocked him out cold. When I saw my 5-for-1 mom knock out a 6-for-1 guy, matter of fact, he's laying on the ground. I looked at my brother Ronald. Ronald looked at Lonnie. We looked at the guy on the ground. We said, man, whatever you do, don't mess with my mama. My mama's bad, man. My mama's bad. And it dawned on me, if the martial arts could do this and help my mother, this is the ticket. This is what I needed, right? And so I got started. And again, before then, no dreams, no goals, no aspirations, no nothing, right? But now I get started in martial arts. And of course, the first thing they told me is, well, we got to teach you self-discipline before we teach you self-defense. I was like, no. I just want to learn how to fight. They said, no, if we teach you self-defense and you don't learn self-discipline, you'll be like an uncontrollable weapon and you'll harm yourself as well as others. So I said, okay, I don't care what this self-discipline is, whatever it is, I got to learn. I want to learn it. And that's the thing that changed my life, learning how to discipline my emotions, to be disciplined, right? But at any rate, so I got started in martial arts. I gave it everything I had, worked out 4 hours every day. My sensei, Japanese word for teacher, instructor, and I took what's called Ishinryu karate. And so he had 3 different classes. One class was for women. I said, please, sensei, can I get in that? You don't understand. I got to learn as fast as I can. And I was in all 3 classes, 4 hours a day. I worked out until all of a sudden now I started getting a goal, and I thought, I want to become a black belt. And I reached that goal, and then I was like, I want to become a second degree black belt. And then I want to come to third degree. But again, I've instilled this discipline also that I learned from the martial arts. And that's really the thing that really catapulted and changed my life. And so that's when I started having some aspirations. And I'll tell you about another instance that's the real thing that just took it over the edge. But let me turn it back over to you for now.
No, it's a pleasure to speak to you. There's a saying that power is the ability to hold a position in space, and you need discipline to have power to hold that position in space. You don't necessarily have to exercise it, but just the potential being there already is perceived by the other party, and they're gone. Very interesting. What I wanted to ask you, so now you're a black belt. Now I don't know how many degrees you were, but all of a sudden now you start becoming, or you decide you're going to go into spirituality, evangelism. You become a Bible professor. Tell us, how did this all transform?
Awesome. Now again, understand I'm teaching martial arts, right? So I'm teaching it, and then I become a Christian. Some people, I had this scary experience. We were coming back from a tournament, and at the time I was just a teenager, but teenagers weren't any competition. So I fought with the grown men, and I won the championship among the grown men. And so I'm in the van. You know how sometimes we guys have ego problems. My head was like this big. And so these girls like, oh, Stan, you beat those guys up. You're just a teenager. They're grown men. And I was like, well, I didn't want to hurt those guys too much, I mean, I was. And so my sensei in Japanese, sensei means teacher, instructor. He's drinking sake, Japanese wine. He's getting drunk. He's drunk, and he's driving on the highway. And the only way he could see, because it got real foggy outside, he had his window rolled down. He's looking at the guardrail, and he's drunk. And so I'm thinking, man, my sensei might wreck this van and we might die. And I'm like, hey, sensei, stop the van. We might wreck and die. Now, I break boards with my head and bricks with my hands and things like this. But this guy 2 seats from me, he broke bricks with his head. And it's like, you ever seen somebody, a few fries short of a Happy Meal, lights on and nobody's home, he was and I was like, Sensei, we might wreck and die. And this guy says, if we die, we just die. I'm thinking, man, you crazy? I never thought about dying before. And I'm thinking, man, I said, but if I die, man, I won't be able to break any boards and bricks. And, a lot of times when I do demonstrations, I lay on a bed of razor sharp nails and put 150-pound bricks on my stomach. The guy takes a 20-pound sledgehammer and breaks it off. And of course, I jump up and preach. They like, anything you say, preacher, go. You know what I mean? And so I said, man, but of course, that's before I was preaching. But anyway, I said, if I die, none of this stuff is going to matter. I'm like, man, I want to know I'm going to heaven, but I don't know. And make a long story short, some folks a week later knocked on my door and they said, hey, we just want to invite you to our church and we want to talk to you about the Lord. Can we ask you a question? I said, sure. They said, if you died today, I was like, oh no, don't talk about dying. They didn't know what I'd gone through. And they said, but if you die, do you know for sure you go to heaven? I said, no. Do you know? They said, yeah. I said, can you show me? They said, sure. I said, come in. And they showed me from the Bible that I was a sinner, but Jesus died and was buried and rose again, and that he had a gift, and his gift was eternal life if I would trust him. And they said, would you like to call upon the Lord and ask him to save you? I was like, well, sure. And he'll give me his gift of eternal life. I mean, I get to go to heaven. They're like, yeah. I was like, oh man, of course. Right. And so that was such a dramatic thing in my life. And I'm the guy that my whole life, Doc, my whole theme was nobody cares. Now, my mom cared, but she got to the place where she was working 2 jobs to try to take care of us, right? And so she was never home. And so I was like, so I was like, man, nobody cares. Dad doesn't care. He never came home, never sent mom a dime, never called, never anything. Society doesn't care. Look what they did to me, beat me up, tarred and feathered me. I mean, nobody cares. And all of a sudden, these people are telling me that God cared and God loved me. I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, nobody cares about me. They said, no, if you'd have been the only person, he'd have died, sent his son to die, and he'd have rose again just for you, to pay for your sins. And I couldn't believe it. And so I got so fired up, I'll never forget. And the church, they used to go knocking on doors and just telling people about the goodness of God. And as a 15-year-old teenager, I remember I said, I want to dedicate my life. I think I just feel something that I should just spend my whole life going all over the world telling people that God loves them and he can turn their life around. Because Doc, I was the biggest mess I knew, man. I mean, messed up to the core. And if he and my life totally turned around again, discipline from the martial arts, but then the spiritual part, and so I just decided, you know what, that's what I want to do. I went off to Bible college and started getting trained. And of course, I had martial arts classes going on out there. Then I was going to college and I graduated, postgraduate work. I'm the guy that never thought I'd make it out of high school. Now I'm graduating from college and then postgraduate work. Then they asked me to become a professor. So now I'm teaching part-time as a professor. And then I'm traveling on the weekends and preaching. And then I'm teaching martial arts, right? And it was the wildest combination. Amazing. But it got men that normally wouldn't come to church, and teenagers, they were like fired up. And they're like, man, because a lot of times, and I even thought this, I thought like this Christianity stuff is for sissies, and for women, it's just the way I thought, right? And that's so right. Here I am now doing this stuff, and I will teach people it takes a real man to live based on principles and do the right thing even when nobody's looking. But the greatest thing to me, though, was love, and the love of God. I was this hard teenager. I was so hurt in life, like a lot of people. I built this hard shell. And man, that love, the love of God, it just melted it. I mean, and when I start reading scriptures like when mother and father forsake me, the Lord will take me up. And man, I started reading stuff about all things work together for good. And then I heard this quote that helped me out. It says, pain and adversity causes some men and women to break. It causes others to break records. And I decided instead of being broken by my pain, I was going to be a record breaker. And now I help other people to do the same. And by the way, folks, if right now maybe you're suicidal like I was, maybe you're in a hopeless situation like I was, yeah. Suicide is the permanent solution to a temporary problem. I'm telling you, if I would have committed suicide back then, I would have never lived to travel, speak in all 50 states and 28 countries. I would have never lived to see the great things that are happening now. And so many times where I speak places and people say, man, your words, it just spoke right to my heart. I'm so grateful for you. And people that they think like I'm the somebody. I'm like, look, you're looking at somebody that was a nobody, a total nobody, but God and I made me into a somebody. And now I'm committed to telling everybody he can do the same and a whole lot more for anybody.
Beautiful. You know what? I think it's probably what you're talking about. What we were talking, you and I were communicating about this before. Tell us a little bit more about this, though, and how you use it. Because, I mean, your life is a living example. It just comes out of you. It's amazing, the energy that you emit. I think if just hanging around with you, you get healthy. So it's like, my question, not really a question, but more to ask you to expound more on this. Tell us about your interesting philosophy from mess to master.
Yes. Yeah. So again, because of my life, and people, they start saying, man, what in the world, like when they would find out my background, like all these people, they always thought, because I would never share my background message at first. And they would always think that I grew up in, with a home with a mom and a dad and all this love and compassion and everything just, and I was like, no, even like when you said, what dreams did you have? People were shocked when I tell them I didn't have any, right? I was, hate to say it, I was like an animal, like a dog. I was just existing, right? Just from day to day. Didn't understand about purpose and all that, right? And so anyway, so my message to people is simply this, and that is every mess, or every master rather, was once a mess or at best mediocre. Therefore, every mess or mediocre person can one day be a master. Now, whenever a mess or mediocre person becomes a master, you now have a message that if you market properly, you can make millions. And that's my story. And so again, I'm here to tell people, as a matter of fact, I teach my audiences when I'm done and I give them some principles. I said, now say this, you're no longer a mess. You're no longer mediocre. You are a master in the making. When you start understanding that, my friend, because Jesus said something very great. He said, the works that I do, he said, he that believeth on me, the works that I do shall he do also, and greater works. So I said, when you have a mentor, you cannot just do what your mentor has done, but you have the potential of doubling what the mentor has done. So I tell people, when you believe like I believe and do like I do, what happens for me can happen for you. But because I'm not the standard, it can happen even better for you. And That's my desire. That's my prayer. That's why I write powerful books like Your Breakthrough is Guaranteed, 7 Simple Steps to Your Success. And as a matter of fact, let me just give you just a taste. Look,
Absolutely. Go ahead.
You were genetically encoded to experience breakthroughs. It's part of your very DNA. Your first breakthrough was when you beat over 40 million sperm cells to the womb. You beat them all. You came in first place. That's right. You are championship material. Your second breakthrough was when the actual water broke and you came through the birth canal. So you may not have been aware of it until now, but you, my friend, have been designed by God to be a breakthrough master. Now the challenge is being given. Do what you were designed to do. Break through every barrier that tries to hinder your success. This is your birthright. This is your destiny. And this book will give you the step-by-step formula you've been looking for. No longer, my friend, will you be held back, but rather you're going to break free from procrastination, from fear, from making excuses, from doubt and negative thinking. You will no longer be stuck, but rather free to succeed. You are unstoppable. You can only be deceived into thinking you can be stopped. Oh, come on, somebody. I hope somebody's receiving that today.
Wow, that's some summary or excerpt. Wow, the book's got to be totally amazing, totally amazing.
Forward by Les Brown, yes.
What is it called? What is it called again?
Okay, the book again, it can be found on my website, drbreakthrough.com. But it's called, one of our books is called "Your Breakthrough is Guaranteed: 7 Simple Steps to Your Success."
Beautiful.
And this literally chronicles the 7 steps that I took from being a mess to becoming a master, and now in the martial arts, a grandmaster, right? Which when I started, I didn't even know there was such a thing as a grandmaster, right? But what I'm saying is this: this illustrates. Let me see if you can see this. I got a glass of water here. I don't know.
Sure, go ahead. We can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
Okay. So here's what happens. Every last person, God, there's a light in us. Every last one of us. But you know what happens sometimes? Life happens. Tragedy strikes, death and destruction and all this. And literally, people get drowned in their problems. Drowned, soaking wet. And now, nothing. They're stuck. They're suffering. They're just, and so I'm the guy that comes along and helps light their fire. So what I do is I ignite or reignite a passion of people for life, for love, for the Lord, and for business. Then I show them how through collaboration, we can not just burn brighter, we can burn higher. And Doc, I'm glad I get to burn with you on this TV show right now.
Well, I tell you what, man, you got me definitely energized. There's no doubt about it. You are high energy since the first moment I started to communicate with you. And this show is for the viewers, so let's keep going for the viewers. So you kind of answering this already, so just continue. So what do you like concentrating on when you're speaking to others and helping them?
Well, and again, what I love to do is, I love to help people to understand the power that's within them that they don't even recognize. So I like to do what I call I activate their breakthrough consciousness. See, in other words, every time, and people, you can identify with this. Every time you make up your mind to do something good, it seems like there's barriers. There seem like there's roadblocks, right? It's like whenever you set a great intention, there seems like there's disruption. And most people take that to mean, well, it's not meant to be. And people get religious and start saying, well, maybe it's not the will of God. And I'm here to tell you, no, listen, any barrier, I apologize, I'm getting excited. I know what I'm about to say. I'm getting excited myself. Any barrier that God did not make, it was made to be broken. I was like, well, see, when I realized that all these people that I used to look up to and respect and admire, there's only one difference between them and me. And there's only one difference between you, my friend, anybody you look up to. I'm going to tell you this is what changed my life forever. That is, there's one little difference. They've simply had more breakthroughs than you. See, in between where you are and where you want to be is something called barriers. The amount of money you make now versus what you want to make in between is barriers. The kind of relationship you have now or relationships versus what you want to have in between is barriers. I could go on and on. You get what I'm trying to say. Here's what
That's
happens.
right.
Most people shrink back from the barriers. See, and I used to think barriers are made to stop me. No, barriers were only made to stop two kind of people. Those who are not sincere, those who are not committed. But if you listen to me today, if you're like I am, if you're sincere, and you're committed. I didn't say perfect. I said sincere, and I said committed. If you're sincerely committed, I got good news for you. Barriers are made to be broken. As a matter of fact, barriers were created to help you sometimes discover the strength that you have that you're not even aware of. So I teach people within your pain is hidden power, and you can take that power, harness that power to create profits and to profit your life, to profit others, and to create profits in business. Because there's people that will pay you to help walk them through your journey of how you went from a mess to now being the master. And then I teach people, when I'm done with you, you're going to have a bumblebee breakthrough. Now, what's a bumblebee breakthrough? I'm glad you asked. That's a good question. See, aerodynamically, Doc, it's impossible for the bumblebee to fly. His wings are too small in proportion to his body. But because the bumblebee doesn't believe that, he flies anyway. And I'm trying to, and some of you are going to have what I call a Super Bowl breakthrough. You remember way back in the day, the Super Bowl, right? I couldn't find one, but I found a ball. And here's what I'm telling you. What I teach people is, listen, when life throws you down, you just bounce back. Come on. Every time it throws you down, you bounce back. And the harder it throws you down, the higher you bounce back, my friend. And as a matter of fact, you'll even start to shine and have a light. And I'm telling you, people think, oh, I failed because I went down. No, you're a failure only if you stay down, my friend. When you get back and you can communicate to others the steps you took and what happened, how you felt down there, but how you wanted to be back up and the things you did. People are like, wow, I needed to hear that. I can identify. It resonates with me. Now that helps me. But I'm saying this, my friend, it's been a crazy journey going from being a mess to a master. But now, Doc, it's just as hard now as it was going from a mess to a master. Now the hard part is now trying to convince people I wasn't always a master. I was a mess. And they look at me, no. Like my wife, like she's like, baby, like she's like, you're the most confident man I've ever seen in my life. I was like, no, you should have seen me when I was young. I was like, I had no confidence whatsoever. I didn't believe in myself. She's like, you're the most truthful man I know, but you lying. And you know what, Doc? She wouldn't believe me until about 5 years ago. I was speaking in Atlanta, and one of the guys was like my hero in the martial arts in our class that I looked up to. He found out I was in town. We hadn't seen each other in 35 years, and he was sitting in the back, and you literally could hear him saying, I can't believe this. I can't believe this. So afterwards, my wife and I and his girlfriend, we all got together, and so he told my wife, he said, this guy, we didn't even know we knew he could talk, but we never even heard it. I mean, he never said a word. Like, we never heard anything from him. And I'm sitting there listening to the way he's speaking. I'm like, there's no way. And he was like, so like backward and whatever. Matter of fact, when I joined the martial arts, they called me Mr. Baboon. They made fun of me. But I was so committed, Doctor. I said, laugh at me now, because one day I'm going to whoop all y'all. That was a bad attitude, but it happened. Anyway.
Well, you know what? It's been a great show, and like anything else that's good, time flies. So we've broken all the barriers, and I know the audience has loved you. We're definitely going to have you back again. And before we end off here, I want to do one thing. I want to acknowledge your wife, Nadia. I know how important my wife, Maria, is in my life. And, we want to thank Nadia for supporting you, for loving you, for making sure that you're out there helping people. Thank you, Nadia. And what can I say? Dr. Breakthrough, thank you so much for being on the show.
Hey, by the way, I call my wife my ABCD. That stands for Adorable Brown Caramel Delight. So we went on a date today, took her to a movie earlier, and then we went to get something to eat. And the guy said, hey, would you like some dessert? I said, no, sir. I pointed to my wife. I bought my dessert with me, 100% natural. Come on now.
I love it, man. It's a pleasure to have you. For those of you watching, let's apply what Dr. Breakthrough, his expounded on, told us, made it clear. You too can go from mess to master, break through the barriers. We're going to have him back for you again in the future. We hope you enjoyed this show. Have a great night.
Hey, by the way, go to drbreakthrough.com. You'll see some stuff there, but I've got some free lessons, now paid lessons, but free lessons too on theinternetmentor.com. Theinternetmentor.com. And you definitely want to look up my daily breakthrough attitude adjuster, absolutely free. It'll change your life. Thank you, Doc, for having me. And thank you for all the things you're doing to make a difference in this world. I appreciate you.
You're quite welcome. It's been a very, very great pleasure. Let's do that, and we'll see you on the next episode of A Time for Truth show. Good night.
You're not necessarily a product of your environment. Get this. You're a product of the environment of your mind. You're an eagle. You were made to fly.